Hi, my name is Molly Steeles. I'm a photographer from Bradford, Ontario, who's based in Toronto, Ontario. Within my practice, I often think of feelings of longing, belonging, and I often reimagine family archives. I use photography as a tool for introspection and investigating the world around me.
What inspired Revisiting in My Mind, your photo series featured in Perennial Darkness?
I was inspired by the idea of memory changing over time and how sometimes your memory loses its authenticity. So I was thinking a lot about my childhood cottage, which I spent a lot of time at growing up, and I still do. And I was thinking about how when I remember it, it changes into kind of this imaginary place that isn't quite accurate to real life.
Tell us about the imagery that is used in this photo series.
This series is based in my family's cottage in Gooderham, Ontario. I sourced imagery from family archives. I also used some images that I took myself, but it primarily is based in family archives. I don't exclusively use found materials in my practice, but I find myself often reimagining how family archives can be used and how they can apply to my life in different ways.
Your work often involves the material manipulation of images through a variety of ways. What was your process in achieving the results of this series?
I often will cut up images and splice them together and kind of weave them together, and I find that really interesting. Sometimes I lay things on top of images. For this series, I wanted to do something really experimental. I randomly came up with the idea of what might happen when I applied bleach to glossy prints. So I printed out a bunch of copies of my family archives in 5x7, and then I applied diluted bleach to it, and I experimented with how the ink would run in different ways and change colors depending on how much bleach I applied, how long I left it on, the different ways I applied it. Really just a guess, and I liked how it looked, so I ended up rolling with it.
What is the significance of this creative process in relation to your family archives?
Something I really loved about using this method to distort these images was how it brought out these different colors and distortions and shapes. I thought that it played really well into the idea of your memories changing. I thought that it played really well into how when you imagine a sentimental place, it might be a little more bright and colorful and abstract than it really was. Something else that I found really interesting about using bleach for these photos was how it eats away at the images, kind of in a similar way to how your memory gets eaten away at over time. Take family archives and shift them in a way that reflects the way you currently feel about things or how you might see the world. Kind of gives you the power to change your family archives, and I think archives in general are an interesting way to look at the world, and when you apply it to looking at your own world, I think you can find out interesting things about yourself.
What does the setting of your family cottage symbolize in this body of work?
I think a lot about moving and my own sense of belonging in terms of places. When it comes to my cottage, it's always been this really safe space that's been pretty consistent my entire life, and it's always been a place that I can go back to when I'm having hard times or when I just need to kind of ground myself. In terms of location and where I've shifted throughout my life, it's kind of been my home base in a certain way. Even though I still have my hometown and everything like that, it's been the place that I really think of when I try to imagine what my childhood was like and what's important to me and the places that are important to me.